Hello and welcome to our first ever faculty chats at the Technology Learning Center. My name is Manuel Fernandez. I'm a Blackboard instructional designer and support. And today with us is Professor Joy Bailey, who teaches communication in conflicts and nonverbal communication. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So first of all, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
And if you would like to just tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin.
Well, the first thing I like to do is brag about myself. I am a seventh generation, that's generation Texan on both sides of my family. My mother's family settled in the San Antonio and LaGrange area, and my father's family settled in the oldest town in Texas, Nacogdoches, Texas. So I am Texan through and through.
That's awesome. Nice for you to be here. You have some experience with the corporate world and education, or
That's
have you
That's
taught?
correct. About half of my career has been involved in corporate publishing, professional trade association, and training. And the other half has been in secondary ed early on. I was a high school English teacher. And then starting about 10 years ago, I entered the university level and was on the team that opened the UHD Northwest campus out there on 249,
really?
the Compact Center. I was on the team under the direction of Lewis Evans that launched that campus. And I was the communications professor.
That's wonderful.
On that campus, and that was a very exciting moment for me.
Okay, that's great. And so that was how long ago? Like
10 years ago.
10 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I graduated from the university, from UHD, and I come from Venezuela. Moved from Venezuela to Miami and then to Houston. So I really have treated this like I'm an adoptive city. It's been great.
Absolutely.
And it's a really good city, and I really liked it. And the university also has been extremely good, extremely great. So so you teach communications,
Yes.
specifically communications in conflict and nonverbal communication.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So tell us a little bit about those two classes. When do you start teaching nonverbal and communications in conflict?
When I, as I mentioned earlier, when Lewis Evans opened up and the team opened up
Right.
the Northwest campus
So you've
in
been
the
teaching
old
it
Compact building,
Okay.
I was given the responsibility of teaching 5 different upper level communications courses.
Okay. And those were the ones that were involved?
Well, actually, the conflict I had to develop. It didn't exist as a course, as a UHD course at that time. So I actually developed it, sought out the textbook, wrote the curriculum, designed the course back 10 years ago as a face-to-face course.
And now we've had it as an online course
It's
for the
evolved. It's evolved from face-to-face to hybrid, and
now
since
online.
Yes, and you and I started working together 7 years ago.
Yes, yeah.
When it was still
right around that time.
it was just transitioning from hybrid to online.
Right.
So you've seen 7 years of transition of this course.
Yes, I have. I think John Lane suggested that you come in for some training.
And he trained
couple
me.
years ago?
He trained me, and he made me do it myself.
And he trained me because I used to be the student worker here, and then I would do the documentation and instructions for students, and then he would just take a red pen and just tell me everything that was not quite up to par, and then improve that, and then work with faculty because I was front-facing.
He is a superb trainer because he makes you do it yourself until you get it right.
Right.
And that's the way to teach communication technology.
Excellent. With the communications in conflict class, you've mentioned that you developed that yourself. What do you like the most about that class? What sort of projects or things do you have the students do, or did when you first started with the class?
I love this course. It is the most exciting, challenging course I've ever taught. And the reason I love this course so much It is transformative. It is a transformative experience from what the student comes in with their perception of conflict and their perception of their ability to not deal with it or to run away from it or to be too aggressive. Over the course, they learn that it is a conflict management is a skill, and we go through various dimensions, whether it be goals and objectives or emotions or balancing power within a conflict, but they go through basic skills, and when they come at the end of the course, when they come out, they have a totally transformative experience towards conflict in general and themselves successfully navigating through the process of conflict.
Right. I know you've lent me the book at one point, and I was reading through the textbook, and it was fairly interesting at the way that it approaches the conflict and viewing it as a way to have goals met between the two people and develop a relationship, and also get things, make it even. Well,
Balancing the
balancing
That's
things.
one of the most heavy dynamics of a conflict. Balancing power.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very dynamic, integral part of conflict. And it drives most conflicts. Power, imbalances of power drives most conflicts. The other interesting point is the interest in goals. You look into any conflict at all, and you'll quickly discern that actually the people in conflict have the same goal. They have the same ultimate goal, but they're trying to arrive at it at different ways, and they don't see the collaborative element within the conflict.
They have different perspectives, and
Exactly.
they don't know which way they can come together, and part of the communication is
Exactly.
coming together and making things work. Correctly.
And so through communication, rather than being aggressively shouting, through calm communication, what is our goal in this department? What is the goal in this company? What does we want this sheriff's department to be how do we want us to, how do we function together effectively? And they realize they have the same big goal, they just have a different perspective on how to arrive there. And once I can get those students to think in a collaborative method, collaborative techniques, and the biggest thing I spend is, number one, I teach them conflict is part of life. It's inevitable.
It always happens.
And exactly. Conflict is there every single day, and it is nothing to be afraid of. And Wilmot gives us the Chinese definition for conflict. The symbol for conflict in Chinese says opportunity, danger. Mm-hmm. So it's an opportunity, but there's danger, so you need to slow down. And I say, rather than danger, caution, proceed carefully, thoughtfully, calmly.
Right. And to get your students to proceed carefully and thoughtfully and calmly approach the conflict, what do you have them do when you first started with the class?
When I first was given the challenge of building this conflict class 10 years ago, I extensively searched textbooks, all university level textbooks, everything. And I always came back to the very first one I encountered. It's by Wilmot and Hawker. Dr. Bill Wilmot was a professor of communications, University of Wyoming. Mm-hmm. He was also a very well-established and highly respected trainer for teaching corporations how to mediate conflict, how to negotiate, and also, he was a sought-after consultant to Exxon, Mobil, Microsoft, you name it, all over the world since 1978. Mm-hmm. So he's the one writer of the text. The other part of the writer, the other author, Dr. Joyce Hawker, is a family communications and psychologist. That's her background. Okay. is psychology, family communication. She's from Texas, and they wrote this book together. And you have the corporate and the interpersonal family side of conflict in this book. And the first thing I was drawn to when I first opened this textbook, and it's the reason I chose it, it was a statement by Seilers in 2009 when he was still talking about this course, this text that was launched in '78. He says, Willman and Hocker contend the study of conflict should be viewed as a basic human requirement and the practice of constructive conflict as an essential set of interpersonal skills. Willman and Hocker have confidence that all of our lives will be enriched by what we learn in this course and what you continue to learn for the rest of your lives. Welcome to this process. It's a process. This course is a process of navigating through the murky waters of conflict.
That sounds really impressive, and I bet your students come out of that course enlightened or transformed in a way, and also apply that to their own personal lives or whatever conflicts they had to tackle during the projects. Correct?
Yes. What I do, and this is Willman and Hocker's text. This is where I got they challenge me. They challenge all professors of the course to have their students bring in a real, ongoing, unresolved conflict that they're currently experiencing with one other individual, either in the workplace or in their personal life. And we spend the entire course analyzing, learning tools, learning techniques, and applying everything that we learn, balancing power, calming down emotions, de-escalating arguments, identifying interests and goals, and most importantly, putting themselves in the other person's shoes. You know, if you can stop and walk a mile in the other person's shoes or moccasins, you will have a very firm grasp of their perspective of the world, of the conflict. So, this is what I have my students do from the very beginning. They address it in the discussion boards. They address it in extensive essays, analytical essays. And when they read the text, and by the way, we are using an ebook. This is the first time that we're going to use Connect. You know, we've read with the McGraw-Hill publisher, and they came in and they showed us how to. It's less expensive than a hard copy. It's an ebook, but it's called a Smart Book.
Right.
And the students are guided through the chapters, and major concepts are highlighted, and then they pause, and they
have
participate.
those interview quizzes, right?
They have brief 5-6 questions right there, self-paced, self-guided, tremendous learning tool. So they review it. They're reading material that's been highlighted. Then they get the quizzes, and it cements and builds engagement with the text.
Right.
And they're having the McGraw-Hill tests are showing that when the students sign up and engage in the ebook and the Connect, the D students go to C, the C students go to B's, and the B students go up to A's, and it's happening all over and over. The research shows that this is a tremendous technology learning tool, and we're implementing it for the first time this fall.
Course, in the course, in this course.
Yes, in the fall course this year. Yes.
Right.
That we've developed.
I say ours sometimes.
Yes, it is ours.
We spend so much time.
7 years.
Working on this.
Yes, yes. It's a collaborative effort. It's been a very highly collaborative effort.
It's been a back and forth between what can we add this semester. I have some time available. Let's come in and let's take a look at what can be improved and what could be. Get the feedback from your students and implement that in your class. So yeah, it's been very exciting to see this class grow from when we first met to where it is now.
And this summer,
the things that we've done.
We had the opportunity, you had the time, I had the time, we totally tore down the course.
Absolutely.
And rebuilt it from the bottom up.
Yes.
We redesigned it, and we rebuilt it, and we're going to take it out for a test drive in October.
Yes, we created that sandbox, and then we brought all your content, but we didn't put it up there to start with. We just set up, we decided on a structure. We worked on the icons to make it completely unique in the way it looks.
Our students are so media savvy. The presentation of the media is key.
Yeah.
You know that you've got to. They're a discerning,
It doesn't
critical
look like any
media
other
consumer.
Blackboard course because
Yes.
we want to make sure that when they come in, they get that experience like I'm in Professor Bailey's class.
Yes.
And I'm going to get a lot out of this.
So we've built a Maserati. We're jumping into it, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully designed, and it runs smoothly, and they can enjoy the experience.
Yes. Right. So you also are teaching nonverbal communication.
Correct.
That's also been a blast to hear about and also work with you because you tell me about all the projects and the little tests and experiments the students have to do and post on the discussion board, correct?
Yes, they have in each chapter, for example, proximities, distance between, what is the comfortable distance? They have to do a social experiment. A lot of them do it here on campus, but it's the elevator experience. And also, you're standing in line to go to the movies. They have an experiment, a social experiment, which they conduct, and they push people in the.
And you suggest that they bring the little.
They bring
paper
their
where it says,
syllabi
"Look,
and show the
this is
person that they're not a stalker, that they're not, messing with them, but they
Right.
are actually in a course at UHD, and it's a social experiments for the nonverbal communication conflict,
Right.
and then they don't get in trouble.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
Because people don't like their spaces invaded. It's very, they read about it, that there's a particular comfortable space for social interaction. There's a classroom space, and then there's a stranger space, which is even bigger. So when you're in, public spaces, there's a very comfortable zone, and then there's an uncomfortable zone, and we do the social experiments. My students do it, write it up, and then they talk about it on the discussion board, and they
Plus
love
of
it.
other
They
experiences.
love my little social experiments.
Right.
Yes, they do. They do.
That's great. So, when you first approached me at the end of the spring semester and told me that you were going to have some time here in Houston, because you live out of town, right? You said that you wanted to approach this differently than the way that we've done it before, which was tweak it a little bit and then make some improvements and then bring it into the next semester. This time we took a from the ground up approach, and we decided on how we were going to make all these changes from the get-go, and then took it apart. We worked through email. We conference called. We did Zoom sessions. We have worked face-to-face for the last couple months. What would you like to tell faculty about this experience? What you've learned, or what would you tell them?
What I've learned in the past couple of months, the way to design a course is to have a vision. My vision for each student that comes into my communication and conflict course is that the course be so effectively designed, attractive, challenging, but achievable, dynamic, interactive, just something to step in and really participate. The intent of the vision I have for every one of my students that come into this conflict class is that it be a transformative experience for them, that it demystifies conflict, the basic elements of conflict management, and that they change their perspective of conflict, they change their perspective of their own capabilities, knowledge, skills picked up in this course to effectively, powerfully manage conflicts in their lives. It's a transformative experience. the main thing I have them do is they come into the course and they bring a real, ongoing, unresolved conflict that they're experiencing. Most students bring in a conflict that's from the workplace, and some from their personal lives. But throughout the entire 8 weeks of the course, they learn all about the dynamics of power balancing, goals, perspective, emotions. Negotiation is a big component that they're exposed to, and they're highly motivated because it's a real conflict that's causing them to think about resigning from their job. It's a conflict that causes a great deal of stress because at work it's something that they know they're going to have to face every single day. And they are highly motivated to engage in the text, to engage on the discussion board. They learn from all their peers when they reflect and write and then discuss these different dynamics and different skills and techniques that they're exposed to in the course. And so it works. It transforms the student because the problem is real, the conflict is real, and they're highly motivated. And secondly, most importantly, I think we took this approach that we were tearing down the old course and not be afraid, not be so in love with the old course that we couldn't deconstruct it and build the new course with the student in the center. And everything that we're doing in this course is to enforce, engage, push the student to truly have that transformative experience.
And guide them, right? Because not only is the student having to do those discussion boards, but we now, that rubric spreadsheet that we used to have has now been an interactive tool that students can look at any time before they complete their assignment. Yes. And same thing with the essay rubric. That's what we've been working on. And not only that, but we've looked at other tools. We didn't just settle on discussion boards. We looked at all the other tools the students could use for the additional materials that they have to complete. But we have discussion boards. We have the e-textbook from the publisher,
which we came in and we're collaborating with them, and you're driving that together.
And we're putting that and we're embedding that into the course.
Yes.
And then your essays that we, like I said, we didn't stick just to the course that we had at the time.
Exactly.
We've decided modify the prompts. Also, we modified the prompts to make sure that they were very focused on what you're trying to get them to accomplish.
Exactly. And you set up the online journal. I've always had a problem with that. You finally found a way that they can write an online reflective journal throughout the course.
Right,
and
from the textbook material.
I'm really excited about implementing that this fall.
And they do a lot of writing, and one of the things that always impressed me was that you read all of it. You give them very individualized comments, and I wanted to make that as easy as possible for you, because it's not just, it's clearly the student that you have at the center of your vision, but also, from my perspective, the instructor is here to facilitate that vision. Therefore, we try to make it as easy as possible.
And I really appreciate what you've done to make the discussion board highly interactive, and they're much more engaged with it, and they're much more involved. And that's where they learn. They learn a great deal. And you pushed me to have 20% more percent of the grade, 50% of the grade is discussion board, which really drives it, and it makes it that much more important for their interactions.
Right. Because before we had essays, and now we're down to we have 3 essays. And then we have 2 essays.
Two essays.
20%
of the grade is based on the interaction on the dynamic, the Connect, McGraw-Hill Connect ebook. And then the other is 50% based on the discussion board. So we've really changed the whole structure of the grading system.
To be a more interactive, interactive participatory group.
And put emphasis on those portions of the course.
Right, exactly. So if you have a faculty that say, I don't know about coming to the Blackboard support, they're really helpful when I have an error message, but what can they do for me when starting a new class, or when I'm just dealing with the same old class, it's same old, right? So what would you tell a faculty that's a little hesitant to come in?
I would encourage them to come down and talk to the design team and say, this is my idea. Can we do it? I don't, the beauty of your capabilities is we don't really know, as faculty, we don't really know what is technologically feasible and what are our capabilities. I say bring your dreams, bring your visions for your course, go big, go all out there and find out what the design team can actually create and facilitate and make it happen.
I like that. I like that. It is very the vision that you had, and also I like the going big or go home. And we're here to try and go as big as possible.
And creative. All of you are so creative. It's unbelievable what you've come up with.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it being able to work with you. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thanks. Thank you. I think that is all for today. I thank you so much for coming in, Professor Bailey, and for taking the time to have our first faculty chat here at the Technology Learning Center. I'm Manuel Fernandez, and this is Professor Bailey, and thank you for watching.
It's been a delightful experience. Enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you for inviting me.